All right, it's Thursday. It's time for another episode of the Sunshine State Happy Hour, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com and the Florida Beer Podcast. This is Dave, your host and your author. And when I started doing the Sunshine State Happy Hour, I had a short list of people that I wanted to have on the show. And my first person being Chalonda White from Afro Beer Check. She was gracious enough to come on. So that was my first big get. And today is my second. So I'm really excited. So I'm very, very happy to introduce everybody to Carla Jean Lauter from Maine, Burr. If you know her on Twitter, she is Beer Babe, easily one of the best voices on craft beer in the blogosphere. And it's wonderful to have her on the show. Carla, how are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, the universe is crazy, but things are going. Things are fine. I was saying before I got online here is that I've been working from home for the last 6 weeks. It's been going pretty well, actually. So far, so good, and just kind of keeping on.
Good. Well, good for you. Are you keeping busy with I guess with the beerosphere? How difficult is it to write about stuff now that things are going so different as they are?
Yeah, it's been difficult just like mentally to wrap my head around, kind of writing about something that feels trivial in the middle of something so serious and global. But I have been having a lot of really good conversations about basically how craft beer businesses run and the challenges that they face, just generally speaking, with, kind of some of the restrictions that are in place, and then the creative ways that companies and even third parties are kind of working within and around those restrictions to try, to keep some kind of revenue coming in. So there's a lot going on, but it's sometimes it feels a little weird just to be like, yay, beer in the middle of all of this. But the more feedback I've gotten on Twitter, which is, no, please keep talking about beer, because everyone's talking about, everyone's talking about things that are so serious. It's refreshing to, kind of have those same common conversations that we used to have about, the different beers and being excited about beer releases and things like that. So I've been taking a little bit of advantage of some of the delivery and pickup options of some of our local breweries. I'm outside. I'm far outside of Portland where I can't get much delivered to me, though. So I've been doing like little runs of contact your pickup. So I'll do like on a weekend, I'll do an order and then I'll go have them put it in my trunk without touching, the whole thing. But I wish I could get more of it delivered, but I made the choice to live in the country. So it's all me.
Nice. Well, I'm going to assume that the beer that you have in hand is one of those beers that you had delivered to you. Is that correct? Or
I picked it up, but yes. This is a local. It's Maine beer. It's Maine Island Trail Ale from Rising Tide. It's a session IPA. It's like a summer staple here. They released it basically on April 1st, beginning of April. And they've been kind of like incrementally doing batches of it instead of what would have been a really massive release. But it's kind of like, this is the go-to beer for a spring, summer for a lot of people because it's low in alcohol, but it has this great hop taste to it. So as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, I need to go buy a case of that right now. So it has a little bit limited distro too. So again, me out in the middle of the country, it's not in my local beer stores yet. So I've been special trips for that one and a couple of other beers too.
Nice. It's funny for me. I have kind of taken this series to sort of step outside Florida, and I've had some special things kind of in my pantry and in my beer cooler. So I kind of opened something up a little bit crazy. This is Renown Brewing, which is based out of Phoenix, and they're one of like the hot ones out there. So this is their pecan pie thief, which is
that's cool.
Bourbon. It's a pecan wheat wine, bourbon barrel aged with vanilla and smoked pecans, and it is just as amazingly pastry stout as you would think.
What's the ABV on that? It's got to be up there.
I don't even want to know. I'm probably going to be on the floor by the time this is over. Come on, I got to see it. It's got to be on here somewhere. It's got to be on here somewhere. I mean, Phoenix isn't complete and total chaos. You know something? Let me just pull up Untapped. Let's see what this is going to do to me. So,
I had this, and I also had Allagash Curia in the smaller bottles, and I chose.
Nice.
I didn't want to be too over the moon before by the time I got off.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got a 10%er on my hands.
Oh, all right. Yep.
So
Cool.
there we go. It's going to be okay.
Right.
But you know something?
Yeah.
I know that you actually, I know it's, funny you mentioned Allagash, because we were just talking to somebody a couple days ago who mentioned Allagash White, which is something
was it M daughter?
Totally need to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, well, I basically just need to like stay at her house and raid the brewery that she works at. But I know that you are also a big fan of Bud Light as well.
Yes, from the Beer Bloggers Conference. I think that was in the one that was in Tampa, right? That picture was taken at the parking lot of a brewery we were about to tour, and somebody had ditched a Bud Light bottle in the parking lot. So yes, not a huge fan. I understand why people drink it. There's a time and a place, but it's not my jam.
Jared says hi.
Hi, Jared. Hi.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for everything, and it's called college. It's funny now that I do a lot of the now that I have to mow the lawn at my house, and my house is sort of on the corner, I'm kind of happy whenever I see something a little bit different. Maybe there's a Sierra Nevada can, and maybe there's a Funky Buddha can, and not the traditional Corona and Bud Light. It's like,
right.
If it's going to be garbage in my yard, at least somebody's drinking something good.
Right.
So, yeah. So back to the blogging and the yes, I'm talking about the garbage in my yard. That's my wife. So, so I know that people are interested in having you be able to talk about things that are not quite so serious, but in a lot of ways, is there something that you can sort of talk about a little bit more so than just the traditional, what are you brewing and whatnot? Are there a lot of people that are very interested in talking about and sort of sharing the things that they are doing to keep themselves afloat during this rather interesting time?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories, kind of how there's a balance out there at the breweries of trying to keep themselves afloat, but also trying to contribute to their communities. So there's also folks that are despite their own troubles, doing stuff to give back to their community. There have been ones that have organized drop-off spots for food donations and food pantry pickups. There are others that are involved in making, hand sanitizer in partnership with distilleries, because if they have mash that can be converted into hand sanitizer, that's something that they're doing as well. And there's a lot going on that isn't just, oh my God, how do I survive? That is definitely like the top of the list that the brewers themselves are talking about, but they're also saying, what can I do as a part of a community? What can I do to support the community that I'm in? Because especially in Maine, and I'm sure certain for most of the U.S., breweries have become a community hub in a lot of places. They're what they call a third space, which means that it's not your work, it's not your home, it's another place that you gather with people. You have meetings, you discuss ideas, you trade gossip about whatever's happening, and it's been kind of an important third space. That now we don't have, so I think they're trying to figure out just as much as we are of how to participate in those types of things. We have a brewery tour company up here that's doing virtual brewery tours. So they've got the brewers talking to people every day. We have just a variety of things that are happening that are positive, as positive as they can be among all of this. And in a matter of fact, today, they slightly changed, they made a proclamation that they slightly changed Maine's rules on to-go beer, so that restaurants that had beer in their draft lines can now sell in a to-go package of some sort. So basically, it has to conform to the growler laws that we have now. It has to be clearly labeled and whatnot, and tamper-proof, tops. But if you've got draft and you've got kegs sitting there that can't have anything done with them, you can kind of now start to sell that through your to-go as well, which super helpful. We've had some really good people pulling for us in that way, just try to get as many people kind of to ride this out as they can.
Interesting. I wonder if, in your opinion, because I do know of some of those breweries that kind of become that third space, they become that central hub for the community. And I almost wonder if they have sort of a leg up during situations like this, in that the community knows that this brewery is such a big part of who they are as a space and as a city and as a land area almost, that they will kind of go out of their way to support them over maybe a small brewery that's sort of out of the way and, you know, kind of lives unto themselves, or one that's just focused mostly on distribution.
I want to believe that. The problem is that the financial health of any particular brewery is really not transparent to most people. So that tiny one in the middle of nowhere might be doing great, and the one that's, you know, bigger, that's regional, that's pulling back from other states in their distro might be doing really poorly, or they overextended themselves. So to the outside consumer, it's really hard. It's been hard for me, even personally, to decide where to spend the money that I am spending, you know, at breweries. How do I pick? How do I choose? You know, so do I choose the one that that is a part of my community, that's a larger size brewery? Do I pick the one that's smaller? Do I pick the one that I think might be struggling? Do I pick the one that's doing okay and has the best chance to survive? It's really difficult, because what this whole situation has done is basically whatever snapshot in time, wherever your financial health was and your level of debt and your level of whatever as a brewery, it stopped you right there. It's a freeze frame. And if you had made a decision, you know, 2 weeks before and just put out a whole bunch of money to buy new equipment, or say you just expanded, or you're planning to expand this summer, which a lot of them were, you know, it's chance. And it sucks, because it's just based on timing, and it's not necessarily based on merit. It's not the ones you want to survive that are doing better. It's just that's where they were in their, you know, kind of scheme and their plans and their business plans, because this is not something that I think anybody anticipated, at least not to this scale. So I wish it was as easy as that. Like, oh, the ones that are beloved will stay, but I don't know. Like, I've been buying beer from the big ones. I've been buying beer from the little ones, but I've been mostly buying beer from the ones that would literally cause me emotional pain if they went away, which is more about the relationships that I have with these people, you know, and the breweries and the families and the people that are involved in them, you know, than the physical liquid. Although I will say that most of Maine's beer is excellent quality, and that's not a deciding factor anywhere. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm not going to buy your beer because it sucks. Nobody sucks. It's all very, very good, which makes the decision.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice. You're obviously very, very active on Twitter, and I think listening to you overhear a conversation of a date going horribly wrong some years ago was literally one of the best things that I ever saw in my life. That was great. But the
really high guy. Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that was amazing. But in terms of the mood on Twitter, not just the people that are talking to you, but the people that are sort of responding to all the conversations or things that you've been watching, what has the mood been lately? Have you noticed it starting to go up, or is it starting to go down? Because, you know, we've got people on both sides. Yeah,
I've definitely seen a shift, because basically, when, you know, like last month when things were kind of approaching this, we don't know what's going to happen, this is a peak, this is coming, this is scary on the horizon, those conversations were much more frantic. You know, should we or shouldn't we do these things? Should we, you know, it was very reactive to whatever the news was. Now, I have found, at least in the last 2-3 weeks, that people are now having bigger, broader conversations about what is going back to work look like. You know, do we keep the same things? Do we change things? Do we wait until? And those are conversations you can't have if you're in like panic freak out mode, right? So like we're getting to, you know, there's like those levels, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's like the survival level. There's the, you know, proficiency level, blah, 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 all the way up to like higher thinking. And I think we're moving into having more nuanced conversations. Just generally speaking, I've had, you know, it was hard to be on Twitter probably in, you know, mid-March. It was just so much emotion, so much, you know, just fear, you know, just because unknowns suck. Nobody likes not knowing what's going to happen. Nobody likes a threat that they don't understand. And especially for a lot of Twitter, they don't have a science background. So this is totally new to them, and they don't have a comprehension of whether they should be scared or not. But I feel like there have been there has been a little bit of a shift. I mean, there's always going to be very reactive people and very upset people, but I feel like we've moved from panic to actual thoughtful discussion of things. I mean, we're still freaking out about certain things, and something pops up in the news and we all go, "What?" But it's not as constant as it was. However, I'm following an account that's called Endless Screaming on Twitter, and it just tweets, like every couple minutes, and it kind of it reminds you in your feed that like things are not normal. It's actually quite neat because it's like it's quite good. I recommend it.
It's just screaming. It's just screaming. Let me put this up there. Yeah, I will share this screen because I have to.
And they're like random times, so it's not like I don't know why. For some reason, it gives me this kind of like, oh, okay, no, we're all freaking out. It's fine. But it's a bot, and it just does its thing. And my plan was originally to unfollow it as soon as Trump got out of office. But now I cannot ever unfollow it. I don't know. So
it's kind of amazing. I know there's one account on Tumblr or something where it's literally the same picture of I cannot think of his name, Nicolas Cage, every single day.
Although
it's the same picture.
My other favorite bot, if you're into art at all, is Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. There's a Twitter account that tweets just tiny squares of that painting, and it's amazing because there's so much detail. If you're not familiar with the Garden of Earthly Delights, it's insane. But they just like a little of, and I think that one's called Boschbot, Boschbot, and that one just delights me in that like. Who gets the time to look at like a 3x3, inch of a piece of art, kind of. So there's a couple of cool bots that I follow for. It almost adds to like the emotional flavor. Like it's like putting decorations on your Twitter to me. And sometimes they're technical, sometimes they're not. But that Boschbot is really fun too.
I had so many like serious questions for you, and this is just so much more fun.
I am showing you automated things of this. This is all one painting. It's just one piece of it. I got to see it, and I got to see the whole thing in Spain.
How big is it?
I want to say it's like 3 feet by 2 feet, but it's a triptych, so it has doors open. So the outside is much less naughty and controversial as the inside, because the inside is like depicting like people going in and out of hell and heaven and stuff. And it was apparently like this thing. So it was like this crazy piece of art, and then you would like bring your the good people in your life, and then you show them the inside, because it was so racy at the time. Very, very cool. Sorry, I'm talking about art.
That's perfectly fine. Well, I guess, and I'm curious as to, since you do have a very strong following and people do sort of listen, as to whether there is a bit of a pressure to either be the source of knowledge or the source of levity in a time like this, or do you, who cares what they say? I'm just going to keep screaming bot Twitter feeds on my account.
Yeah, before all of this, I was definitely of the, who cares at this point? Like I've been on Twitter since 2008 or something, and I've given up trying to let other people define what my Twitter is going to be, and it's evolved a bit over time. It used to be like purely beer, and now it's beer, feminism, pictures of my dog. Give or take. So it's one of those things that I warn people, though, when they go to follow me, that I tweet a lot. That's the only thing I'm self-conscious about, is that I tweet a lot. So if people are expecting me to like tweet once a week or once a month, like some people do, that's not, if it's not for you, it's okay. But I do every once in a while, like if I'm passionate about something political, I will get people going, stick to beer, go back to beer. And I don't care when they say that, because if there's something that made it through my filter to come out in the political means, that means that I stand by that totally. So it's like, if you don't have to respond to it, you don't have to look at it, you don't have to like it. It's just, that's the thing that is very, very important to me at this point. So I don't want to become completely political. To really answer your question, I don't consider myself an authority on anything about beer other than I like to start good conversations about it. So I'm not the one like dictating the information that you like, but I do kind of have a good sense of what's going on from the conversations that I have. So like I can contribute some information to it, but I'm not like the end all be all. I'm not the Brewers Association. I'm not, kind of, the head of a guild or anything, but I can tell you exactly where to go in Portland to get really good beer. So if anybody needs that advice, I can tell you that with authority.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I just kind of, I don't usually listen, and I honestly don't get as many trolls and jerks and whatever as one would expect talking about beer to get. I had much more trouble when I was on Beer Advocates forums back in the day.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was just a cesspool of sexism. So I like Twitter in that, the other thing is that the beauty of Twitter is that you don't have to follow me. If you don't not digging what I'm putting down, then just don't follow me. Like that's, that's it.
I will say one of my absolute pet peeves when it comes to beer and social media is the fact that there are a lot of accounts that have a lot more visits than I do, unfortunately, but it's a female, and when they're I don't even need to say the rest of this. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's they're showing more of them than they are of the beer,
right?
And that's got to be doubly frustrating.
I mean, it is and it isn't, because there's an element of autonomy there. Like if that's what they're doing for themselves and that's how they just choose to display their own sexuality, that's more power to them. It is frustrating when you can clearly see that the audience is just there for the sexual part of the content when they're trying to be the beer side of the content. And the only message I would tell the people is that you don't have to do the sexy side to be a woman contributing to the beer. If that's what you would like to do and that's what you get gratification out of, good for you. Like, that's fine. I know a couple people who are actually models and they do stuff with craft beer instead of wine because they really like the combination of those two. That's awesome. Yeah. But you don't have to go via your body to be in this. I named myself the Beer Babe A because I thought it was going to be anonymous forever. I didn't know anything about the beer industry at the time. And two, I kept it because I am not the quintessential, beer babe, and I kind of enjoyed claiming that term. It's like I'm not wearing a dirndl, I don't have blonde hair, my boobs aren't out here, I'm not a safe holy girl or whatever. And I've gotten, to become, somewhat respected or whatever on Twitter without all of that. But that's my choice. Like, so it is and it isn't frustrating, but if that's what they are enjoying about it. I mean, a lot of Instagram, people especially are very proud of their bodies and show them off, and that's their jam.
It just frustrates me because I don't have that.
Yeah, right.
I don't have that. I just put in a lot of work, and yet they get more likes than I do. That's not fair. You
can't compare yourself to other people either.
Oh my goodness. So where is a good place in Portland to get a beer?
Oh my God. So my favorite beer bar probably in all of Portland is Novari Res, which started off as a Belgian beer bar. Like they had all of the imports that you could possibly get, especially when that was super popular. And now they've become the place where you can get the beer you can't get anywhere else in Maine. And also the curators of the best local beer. So like you're not out there unless you're awesome. So it's 20-ish taps that are just local, which is fantastic. And the staff is super knowledgeable, so they can point you in any good direction. I mean, there's a lot of great bars downtown, but just brewery wise, you've got to hit up Allagash. You got to check out, just kind of the OG of Belgian beer in the U.S.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like I was saying before, we have a ton of wonderful breweries, and I hope that they all weather the storm. And I can still say that we have 100+ breweries in the state when all of this is over. But Portland is it's fantastic. I also really enjoy going to High Roller Lobster Company, which is a tiny, it's like a new lobster place because it's not like the old school cute New England. It's like colors and but it's run by one of the people who owns Bissell Brothers, so they always have awesome tap. And you can get lobster on a stick and an IPA, and it's just like that's pretty freaking Maine right there. So.
That's amazing. So I will end this with the question that I'm sort of giving to everybody, And I'm curious, since you've been speaking to so many of the people that are up in Maine, obviously breweries have had to do a lot of different things to survive right now. They've had to make some changes and do some things that were not part of their normal business model.
Yeah.
But once we get back to normal, once everything is fine, what are some of the changes that you have seen breweries make that you want to see stick around and be a normal part of brewery culture from here on out?
I want delivery to be an option. And I would love, and I've said this on Twitter a couple times, and it's not quite available now legally because of some of our distro laws, but I would love if either distributors or brewers guilds could create some kind of a subscription box of local fresh beers. So if I could sign up to every week, have a 6-pack or 12 local beers from different breweries, like that are fresh, delivered to me, I would sign up for that and never unsign up. Because especially for me, I'm not super in downtown anymore, so I don't make my rounds all the time, but it would just be a great way to expose people to new beer. And I think it would be a win-win if the distributors were doing it, because then they would, kind of get interest in these beers for accounts so that, create demand essentially. Right now, not possible at all, because the distributors can't do direct sales to consumers, and also breweries could do it, but they couldn't do it with multiple beers. So I'm hoping maybe that type of thing happens, because especially in Maine, we're really spread out. It would be really neat to have people be able to get beer from a little bit farther away via the mail, which I think that would be cool. Generally speaking, that whole order ahead of time and pick up also very nice, because I don't stand in line anymore. I've been in the beer industry for long. I'm not standing in line for anything.
No.
Not standing in line.
Won't do it. I'm right there with you. If I have to wait, what's the point?
Nope.
All right. So, like I said, if you are not following her on Instagram or Twitter, especially Twitter, please do so. She's easily one of the best people to listen to. And are you getting a lot of good responses from the question that you put up today? What's the one beer that you want to try but haven't? Okay.
Yeah, and it was funny because the first two were Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger, two totally different people, which I thought was funny.
Uh-huh.
And then, but no, there's a lot of really good stuff there. And what I was happy about it is that there wasn't a lot of also follow-on where people were like, well, that beer actually sucks. They were very positive about oh, cool. They're kind of connecting to see how they could get these beers now that they've thought about it, which is pretty cool. But I always like hearing that, what are those? I love throwing out open-ended questions.
Yeah, I didn't have one because I had sort of cleaned out my wish list, but now that I've been doing these shows and I've heard it around so much, Allagash White has now become the only one.
I can't believe you haven't had Allagash White. Yeah,
never had it. Yeah,
I'll have to send you some, because I mean that is.
Yeah, it's so many people. It's just it's right up at the top of the list. So
yeah, it's just so well executed. It's Allagash, which means it's perfect every time. It never varies by an iota ever. It kind of has a place in beer history, and it's wonderful. It's not
nice.
It's not like, oh, an old English ale, you got to have it to just have it. No, it's a good beer, but it's also a really important step in craft beer history, I think.
Nice. Well, if you want to listen or look at breweries that aren't as good as Allagash, come visit us on floridabeerblog.com or on the Florida Beer Podcast, wherever good fine podcasts are found. Tomorrow we're going to be speaking with Beer and Sunshine, who's based out of Central Florida, so it'll be interesting to talk to see what's going on in the I-4 corridor once again. Carla, thank you so much. Definitely will let you know if I ever get some of that sweet wit beer from Allagash in my hands. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bye.